Welcome. Tonight is the November 20th, 2017 Coeur d'Alene Parks and Recreation Commission meeting. Welcome all here. Let's go ahead and begin the meeting, Melissa, with roll call.
Commissioner Cranston.
Here.
Commissioner McDowell.
Here.
Commissioner Lean.
Here.
Commissioner Tate. Commissioner Hill.
Here.
Commissioner Wood.
Here.
Commissioner Ettinger. Commissioner Hart.
Here.
Commissioner Freeman.
Here.
Thank you, Melissa. Hart, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight?
All right. Please stand and remove your hats if you have any. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First of all, tonight I'd like to welcome our student representatives that are with us here tonight, Hart and Kinsey. Welcome. And just kind of information for our guests here tonight. We've got a couple of business items that we'll need to work through here first off. And then we'll have a brief presentation on how we'll be trying to organize the workshop. Then we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting into the workshop to where we can all kind of have a little bit more informal interaction with you and get your ideas, concerns, comments on the Veterans Centennial Park conceptual plan. So with that, I'd like to ask any of the commissioners tonight if they have any conflict of interest with any agenda items tonight.
None here. Nope.
There are none. Next is approval of the October 16th meeting minutes. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes? If there aren't any comments or revisions, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Go ahead,
I would move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Yeah, second.
Okay, the motion's been made by Commissioner McDowell and seconded by Commissioner Hart to approve the October 16th, 2017 meeting minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, meeting minutes are approved. Let's go ahead and move next to staff report. Bill, what do you have?
Thank you, Commissioner. So on the rec side of our business, the swim lessons we're doing still on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. The program is very successful, and every 6 weeks we have about 120 kids that we're teaching how to swim at the McGrain Center. 3rd through 8th basketball is underway. We've grown to 45 teams. That's with 400 participants. Our men's basketball has been on the upswing again, and we're back up to 16 league teams, and we're looking at doing some, that gives us the ability to do some competitive and non-competitive basketball. And then next month, we're having our wrestling camp with our partner NIC, and then we also, that next month, we'll be doing our 9 to 12 grade basketball program. Last week, I met with the Fort Ground Homeowners Association and gave them a bit of an update on our Memorial Park and parking project. And so I'll tell you what I talked to them, because that'll be your update. One of the good things is that we had to speak with the commissioners. As you well saw, we had a deadline to get the parking lot done before the end of November. A week or so ago, we had a bunch of snow, and the weather turned cold, and we were having some difficulty in getting the paving done. So we spoke with the commissioners who are partnering the project for the parking, and they agreed to let us extend that and do the work correctly in the spring. So you'll see most of the activity is buttoned up now, but we will start real hard when the weather in March is to our favor. Any questions about that, commissioners? And then what we will be doing on that project, improvements that are completed today, we've got the site excavation and grading, the sports courts paving, the memorial fields in place, utilities are been relocated, stormwater utilities are in place, and our retaining wall and electrical system. We've ordered the playground. Our staff, we have certified playground installers and certified technicians. And so we were going to save some money in the project and install it ourselves. We're going to install it this next month if we can, if the weather allows us to do that. They can then put the concrete and berming around it after the playground's in place. So you might see that going up in the next month or so if the weather cooperates. And K-27, going along really well. We're hoping to have that water flowing maybe this week, maybe next week. They're not certain what, they've had some electrical stuff they're working on, but that's coming along well. So I've got some notes here from John Mueller, who is our architect. And so I'd like to point out a couple of bullets that I bring to your attention. So Clearwater has done a really good job on the collaboration with their field man, Todd Bravo. He's been doing an excellent job. He's been able to really understand John's concept and being able to put it to the ground. And John's been very pleased with his creative touch and how we're getting that together. And then we'd like to recognize some heroes on this project. Jim Thorpe and Jeff Wood both have helped out tremendously. Jim has helped with the electrical portion of this and contributed quite a bit. And then Jeff Wood has donated most of the stone that we're seeing going in for the waterfall. So that's been wonderful for them to help. And we, Tommy LaRiviera also has been helping out some. There are other partners, but Tommy has stepped up and donated the vault where all of the mechanical goes into, and he's fabricating. There are, I believe, 8 benches that are for sponsorship along the perimeter, and he's doing the work on those as well. So it's been a wonderful community project. A lot of players have stepped up to help, and just wanted to give them some shout out. And other than that, I don't have anything else.
Thank you, Bill. Christie?
Mr. Chair, thanks you. Bill, appreciate your update on that, and I just wanted to add to it if I could. Last month I talked about that maybe you would turn the water on and we would do something this month, and I'm sure you will. But in talking with Mayor Widmeyer and the K27 committee, it looks like the actual dedication will be during Police Week next May. Seemed to make a lot more sense. It'll be daylight, it'll be warm. You can have the nice landscaping around the project and
Completed,
the benches.
right. So this is just for us to fire it up to make certain everything's running well. We'll play with the flow rates on each fall to see how we can make it work. We'll turn it on, see that it's working, and then we'll turn right around and winterize it.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for your hard work.
Thank you.
Anything else for Bill? Thank you, Bill. Do any of the commissioners have any comments or announcements? Okay. Next item is public comments. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to address the commission that is not already here for one of the agenda items or the workshop for the master plan? Yes. Why don't you come on up to the podium, go ahead and state your name and address for the record, and you'll have up to 5 minutes.
I'm Judy Hanna. Did you just want me to identify myself?
Yeah,
Or do you want
and
me to
just your
speak?
address for the record.
Okay, 3005 East Fernand Hill Road.
Okay,
We live on the property that Emma Van Lyken lived on, Aunt Emma.
okay. Yes,
I'd like to speak to,
come on up to the podium.
my name's Robert Erblund, and I grew up on the property.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
Good evening. My name is Rick Wilson. My wife, Charlotte, is sitting out here in the peanut gallery. And we have a place on Fernand Hill Road. Our address is 3115 East Fernand Hill Road. We've lived close to that address and up the hill for 8 years. We know some of the problems that there is with Fernand Hill Road year-round. We know that it's a narrow road that's being built on almost as we speak. I mean, there's construction up there, hundreds, literally hundreds of cement trucks, cement pump trucks, gravel trucks, contractors, everything else going up and down that road. And the proposed park area is in an area where it's going to make just a congested area out of the whole roadway. And I can't see where there's any area where that road can be improved width-wise or whatever to accommodate the type of traffic that you're talking about to access the park. The area around there is a very nice area. We love it. I can see where this area of the park was probably a very prime piece of property that was given to the city, and it took it, I'm assuming, right off the tax rolls. And now us as citizens of the city of Coeur d'Alene, we are the ones that are going to pay for whatever is done there through our taxes. I can look at the people that are out here right now, and I'm assuming they're our age or younger. And we've come up here because it's a beautiful place to live. The taxes were fairly reasonable, but with all the parks and things that are going in, our taxes are skyrocketing. We're retired. We're on a fixed income. I'd like to say a broken income because it isn't getting any better. 2% raise on Social Security, I think it will buy me probably a loaf of bread and a dozen hot dogs. That's all I'm going to get. We have to look out for ourselves. We just have to come in here and talk with people and say, please, understand what you're doing. If somebody gives you something, doesn't mean you have to take it. It's like your aunt calling and giving you a timeshare. You don't know what you're getting into until you buy it. Then you realize that it costs you a fortune and you might not be able to use it when you want. So this park, as from what I understand, is going to be very hard to accommodate the traffic, the wildlife up there. We don't need a place for elk and deer and turkeys to graze because they graze everywhere, in everyone's yard. There's 30 to 40 turkeys within a quarter mile of each direction of where we live. There are deer everywhere. I know the city has limits on fence. They have limitations on height of fences. You can't have a garden. You can't put in nice flowers or vegetables that the deer don't get to. And all we're going to do is we're going to make a wildlife refuge. Gee whiz, why don't you just say you're going to put a zoo there or something? You know, we don't need all of the animals that we have now. And all it takes is a disease that will wipe out the whole population of deer. And the city will get calls, hey, I got a dead deer that's rotting in my front yard, what do I do? They're probably going to say, hey, take it to the dump. I mean, it's just, the wildlife thing it's not really needed. It needs to be controlled now. There's just a lot with it that concerns us. I got a note here that I'm not a public speaker, so it's kind of hard for me to look and see what I've said and not said, but we're adamantly against it. I think that property could be used, better used to the city, if nothing else. Maybe if the city owns it, it could be sold. The money, profits from it could be put into our taxes, to lower our taxes. We just, I don't know. I wish I could say more, but I'm saying it's not the right place in the right time to do something like that. And the animals that are there are just out of control now. And I thank you very much and appreciate your time.
Thank you. Do you want to comment, Bill?
Well, the question about selling the property is off the table. My predecessor, Doug Eastwood, spoke with Emma personally about that because we had looked at that as parlaying that property into more lowland property here within the city, and she was adamantly opposed to that. And so she gifted this property for what she had the terms in the deed, and it's very clear, and I've got that out here for all the workshop people here to look at, and how that's being interpreted by her nephew, Jack Seagraves. And so we looked at that as a possibility, but it is something that Emma said no to.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Katie Kasanke, our urban forester, is here with us. I'm sorry, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I would just, a question. We had one of our 3 individuals that signed up during the public comment period. I just wanted to make sure you were aware that during the workshop period, that's really not a televised comment period. So if you're going to offer public comment, this is the time to do that. Otherwise, we'll be glad to speak with you, and you can write your comments down, and/or we can make sure we record them. We're happy to do that. But this is the time, if you're going to make public comment, to do that.
Yeah, what our goal tonight was to get kind of input through the workshop process with everybody tonight. If and when the consideration of a master plan moves forward of any form for any kind of adoption, then there will also be another formal public hearing with Park and Rec where there would be additional public testimony too that would be recorded on air, so.
Correct, Commissioner. So our
This is
hope
just kind of the first step of kind of a long process we've begun here with just interaction with the community.
Correct. Our hope was that we had heard some public comment a couple meetings back. We had told the community that we were going to hold this as a workshop. We will take that data from this workshop and see how we can use that information. And then we would come back to you at a later date within a month or two, and we would present what our findings were, and they would have an opportunity to weigh in on that, and it would be up to you to vote this plan in as adopted or maybe revisions.
Okay.
And is it correct that this is actually a long-term project? We don't have money for it right now, do
Well,
we?
what master plans are, Commissioner, is that they give us a roadmap, and doesn't mean that we have the money currently to move forward with the plan. The plans that the Open Space Committee, they worked on, was adopted in 2012 an open space plan. And again, we have copies of that at the tables at the rear of the room to say that this was already vetted once before. There are some new folks that maybe moved in after that was done, but we are staying within those guidelines, and that's what master plans are for, is to give us the roadmap to move forward. And that's what we're trying to do.
Christie?
Mr. Chair. And I appreciate that, Bill. I think that however we're going to gather input tonight, that we make sure it's all pulled together and that all the commissioners hear it. So I'm not sure how we're doing that tonight with the workshop, but I do think, as Mike said, there's probably a few more people that want the opportunity to speak right now, and then we could go into the workshop. Your thoughts on that?
That's fine.
So, Commissioner, what I can tell you is that we're going to take the information that's written, and we take some public comments as well. Melissa's taking minutes. She was going to compile all of those comments from the public and then put them into one document for you to review.
Good.
And I just wanted to emphasize again that I would call this a long-range project, meaning it's not happening, in the next 2 months or anything. And so there's lots of time and opportunities for input, I think.
Well, you're right, and in fact, we received a letter today, since we're talking about this, about long range. Sandy Emerson sent a letter today, and I did not copy it for you. It'll be in the public record when Melissa compiles all that. He was good friends with Emma's attorney. So, let me see, her name is
Sue Flamia.
Sue Flamia. And she was upset with Doug Eastwood for not moving forward with something, because Emma wanted to see some movement on her donation and wanted to see some action about what she wanted to see at this 16 acres. And so Sue, and again, you'll see this from Sandy's comments, had some property that she wanted to gift to the city and chose not to because we didn't do something with Emma's property. So something is the master plan. Something is still movement towards what Emma wanted. And as long as we can get some people up there to understand that that's a city park and it's available to them, that's great. but you're absolutely correct. We don't have the funds to do much up there. We just like to bring it to everybody's attention. It's available as a city park. It's not a neighborhood park, it's a city park. And so it's up there for folks to look, walk around, see all the wildlife that this gentleman talked about. And in fact, the last time we had a meeting about this, I went up there to check on a property, and I ran into two individuals who didn't know the property was there because they saw the meeting, and they were very excited about this new piece of property that was part of the city park portfolio or our system. And they were very pleased to find out about that because this guy was walking around and going into the wood stuff and just thought it was wonderful. So that's our intention. But you're right, it's a roadmap for the future.
Okay. So is there someone else who would like to speak for public comments?
I would like to speak on the record.
Come on up. Again, and state your name and address again, and then go ahead. You'll have up to 5 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Judy Kenyon Hanna. I did think I'd have an opportunity to speak on the record tonight. I brought two artifacts with me. One is a map of Emma's house. We purchased this property in the early 2000s, and we now have a home there. And I was her neighbor, and I knew her for 12 years. We purchased the Fay and Coot Seagraves house in 1985, and we've lived on the hill ever since. And she was the sister-in-law of Aunt Emma. That's what her kids called her, so that's what we called her. I'm interested to see Jack's email back there, because I haven't heard from him since her memorial service. He was there. We invited the kids to come and go through the house and see what Fay and Coot's house looked like, but I felt very close to her. This was taped up in my laundry room, so I'll pass it around to the commission, if it's okay.
I think the audience cannot hear. There was someone raising their hand.
We can't hear.
Yeah. I don't know if we're able
Maybe
to.
we should give that to Melissa? I don't know.
You can just take a peek and pass it. This is Emma's house before we bought it. And she's a very, very sparse, very, very private person, and she also lived very, very simply. So that's her, and if you look at your site plan now, you can see the development around it. I feel very strongly about preserving what she wanted. We kept her cottage. Her cottage is part of our property now. It's concrete block. We've preserved it, and I feel responsible for that and knowing what was in her heart. The other thing I would raise is that until the easement is used by the city for the property, that people are crossing our property. And you can actually see that on the drawing that's on your website, that easement is only for Pete Erblund and his family, because that actually crosses our property. So until that easement is fully utilized, that's not okay with us, I guess I'm saying. And I don't want anyone to not enjoy that area. My kids were raised there from the age of 5 and 8. We raised our families there. We bought Emma's house, built the house that we only planned to build once on that site, and preserved her cottage and want to preserve the legacy that she has. We have, on her cottage is all the rock from it is from the property. It's basalt from where we built our house. And, you know, it's very naturally integrated. There is, on another issue, there is a water issue with collection on the road. And I did review the June 19th meeting, and several things were referred to as wetlands, which, as my knowledge is, there's no wetlands on that dome of the main 16 acres. Where there is a wetlands and cattails and natural vegetation is along the road. And so any kind of asphalt or pavement in that area is going to really overflow that whole area. There's several culverts in that area if you look at the road map, and Doug could probably describe that further. But we enjoy the property. I take my grandkids up here. I brought my trees in Idaho because we like to go up there and explore, and they find treasures up there. They find toys. They find balls that people have thrown for dogs. And I just wanted to say, from my point of view, their imagination is what makes that space. And they doesn't really need any accoutrements or special things or amphitheaters that look into Josephine's bedroom, for example. And we love it. I mean, it's great adventures when I go out there with my grandkids and we walk down that road and we imagine pioneers and we imagine things. And so, as far as children and enjoying it, God, we love it, But I do understand others in the park. I don't understand why the Victorian Lane area didn't have a park of its own. I thought the city required builders and developments to provide parks and green space for developments, but maybe that wasn't in the master plan back then. So I do understand that they would like to see something as far as a green space goes. But I wrote a letter and comments, and I'll submit those. The other artifact I brought is Faye Seagrave's genealogy and kindred lines. And a lot of that was reported in that Coeur d'Alene Press article earlier, but they are truly, salt of the earth, Coote's father on foot. I mean, he lost his horse somewhere in Montana after shooing the 7th Cavalry and made it on foot to Coeur d'Alene, and there were 318 permanent residents then, including the railroad workers. So when they moved here, there was 318 people. So these people are salt of the earth, and I think when she says she wants it simple and undeveloped, I think that's what she meant. And I did speak to her many times, and she's just a wonderful, generous person. In fact, we're right next to the Seagraves Library, which she funded for the city of Coeur d'Alene. So if you have any questions about the wetlands or the easements or anything, feel free to contact us, because we'd really like to get that ironed out. And I did take a film, which I won't try and show you now, this morning, because any of my neighbors that drove down above my house today, there's a huge puddle in the middle of Fernand Hill Road because the drainage there is not excellent, and any kind of hard surface like pavement on that curve, I think is going to cause problems for people, especially when it freezes, which it does, and it's very, very cold up there. But the last thing I'll relate to you was in November 1996 when we had the ice storm. I called her to see if she needed anything, which she never did. But everybody's electricity was out. All the neighbors were freaking out because we had gas, so we had at least hot water. And I tried to take her soup, or I tried to take her something. She goes, "No, Mrs. Hannah." She's the only person that ever called me Mrs. Hannah. "I'm fine. I got, basically, I got this." She was chopping her wood and keeping her fire lit and very, very self-sufficient. But she's a true gem.
Judy?
Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Do you want your
Yeah,
other,
You have your
Yes,
other
yes.
document here.
And I'll pass a picture on if anyone wants to see it. But this is how she lived. She lived very, very
Commissioner Cranston?
Yes.
She's correct. There are not wetlands there. We assumed there were. We believed because it was so wet that there was a natural spring. But during the last meeting, we come to find out that there was some stormwater from an adjacent property that's being placed on our property. So within this master plan, we did identify that. And if that wetland should dry up, we certainly wouldn't propose a wetland there because there would be no water. But in a way, our ignorance was that we assumed that there was a spring of some sort. But upon review, we found out that it was something entirely different.
Okay. Does anybody else wish to speak? Peter?
Hi, my name is Robert Erblin, and I'm here to speak on behalf of Emma Van Locken.
Okay.
I had the honor to grow up and spend my childhood in the same house, same property that Emma did. That piece of land has a special place in my heart. Emma lived in the bunkhouse, the end of our gravel road. She would visit with me and my sister as we would wait for the school bus, and she would usually be walking the property or picking her plums when we'd come home from school. One of the things that sticks out to me about Emma is her passion for the property. She spoke about it often, and if you know Emma, you know that she didn't mince words, and she was anything but ambiguous. She wanted that piece of land to be preserved in the way that she remembered it, and that's why she donated it with special instructions. She wanted to stay on that land forever, and she did. When Emma passed, we had a small ceremony on the edge of the park where the old apple tree used to be. My sister and I spread Emma's ashes in the exact location where the proposed parking lot will be. If you pave over this land, you will be dishonoring the woman who donated it. To be preserved in as natural state as possible. Let us honor Emma and keep this park as beautiful as it already is. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Evening, Commissioners. My name's Pete Erblund, and I'm at 3007 Fernand Hill. That's my son. Pretty good, huh?
Yeah.
Wonder where you got that from?
I spoke the last time, and so I don't want to belabor the points that I made last time. But I get the idea that this is not a neighborhood park. It's a city park, and people need to know about it. They need to access it, and they need to be able to enjoy it the same way that we neighbors do. We don't have any special right over any other citizen in this city to use the park. I get that. And so I'm not really a not-in-my-backyard person, but I am also aware of what Emma expressed, and I know Sandy Emerson, I knew Sue Flamia, I knew that Emma was concerned that the donation went into the Idaho Parks Foundation, and it didn't come out to the city of Coeur d'Alene for quite a while. And that was her concern. It was not her concern that there was no development going on, because she didn't want development. And so Walt Richard, and I won't elaborate on what he's done, but he's provided a pretty good, I think, compromise into the way that the city can access and the people can access the park and enjoy it, and yet keep to the clear language of the gift deed. I finally want to point out that I read an article in the newspaper the other day where somebody said that the gift deed language was ambiguous. I was surprised at that. The gift deed language states specifically, "This park shall be retained in as natural a state as possible." Well, I can look those definitions up, and I did. Retained means keep. It's already there. Natural is defined as existing in or caused by nature, not made or caused by humankind. And possible, I think we all know what that means. Possible simply means being within the limits of ability. So Emma had land that was in a natural state. She kept it in a natural state. She gave a gift to the city with the restriction that it be kept in as natural a state as possible. I can't tell you what to do, and I'm certainly not here to give a lecture about civic responsibility. But when a citizen gives something to you and to us, she's gone now, and she can't take it back. And she can't come in here and say, "This is what I meant." But there are other people who may be thinking about giving things to the city or to the Parks Foundation, and might want to know what the Parks Commission is going to recommend or what the City Council is going to do with that gift when there are restrictions in it. And it could have been, she could just as well have given this to the Nature Conservancy, taken a huge tax deduction, and there would be no way for everybody to enjoy it. And it would be as natural as possible. It could not be changed at all. So I simply, again, recognizing that it's a great benefit to the neighbors who are up there. They love it, obviously. And it's natural to not want a whole bunch of people running around next to your home. But I think I can fairly state for the group of the neighbors up there that we don't want to resist people enjoying the park. We just don't want to see pavement, because that's not, you pave paradise, and that's not natural as possible. Keep it gravel access. Judy Hanna has graciously allowed people, she's never kept anybody from crossing her property to enjoy the park. But in order to actually make it official, you'll have to build a road, and there'll have to be a road actually into the park. We suggest that it be a gravel access, because that is more natural than pavement. So thank you very much for listening to me again.
Thank you, Peter. Anyone else? Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thanks for hearing me. My name is Warner Krempels, and I live at 888 North Victorian Drive. This is on the east end of this proposed park. And some of the concerns that I have already been mentioned, so I'm not going to duplicate those. But I have some opinions of a slightly different nature, and I'll read it and try to be as brief as I possibly can. Probably the most positive aspect of developing this park would be to make it safer from the viewpoint of maybe a fire, by cleaning up all the dead wood, keeping the grass mowed, maybe a little watering here or there, and it would greatly reduce the fire danger to the homes that surround the property, and I understand that. And that would be a good thing. But the park still needs to be developed as natural as possible to conform to the gift deed by Emma. My concern is this. My wife and I moved here 20 years ago, and we love this area because it's peaceful, it's quiet, and it's very, very safe. The increase in the noise signature that this development and people in the park would cause is of a slight concern to me. In addition, my main concern is how will this park be patrolled by the Coeur d'Alene Police? It's impossible. They would have to either be out on dirt bikes or be out on a foot beat. And so my concern is that if a crime does occur, everything is going to be reactive in that park after it's all over with. I did serve over 30 years in law enforcement. I walked the beat in several parks, and this, of course, is in Los Angeles. And you can't equate this to a park in Los Angeles. But what I found is that the common denominator in most city parks are vice activities in restrooms, and you're going to build restrooms there as well, obviously. You got copious narcotics activity, and also the increase of homeless people that will come and try to spend the night there because there's shelter there. Most of this occurs during the hours of darkness. Now, I don't know if this park is going to be open all night long. Can you imagine if you live in one of the homes that butt up to the park and you hear noises at 1, 2, or 3 o'clock in the morning? You don't know if it's a trespasser or a burglar coming into your backyard, or just somebody out walking their dog in the middle of the night. You just don't know. And that's going to be, not very comforting. And so if you do have restrooms, they've got to be locked up at night. And that'll also stop some of the graffiti and people destroying equipment in there. They need to be locked up from sundown to sunrise in the hours of darkness.
Currently, our parks are.
Yeah, okay, which is a great idea. Are you going to have surveillance cameras, just out of curiosity, maybe in the parking area? So if a crime does occur, at least there's some information that can be given to
As a
police
master
department?
plan, I'm not so certain surveillance cameras are natural as possible.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you very much for listening to me, and mostly law enforcement is my concern. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah,
Peter.
go ahead, Jim.
Peter, could I ask you a question? Would you mind coming back up? Did you mention that Emma was upset that we hadn't done something with the park?
No, I think that her concern was that, I'd heard that she had relayed to Sandy Emerson that nothing was happening.
Oh, okay. So it was Sandy, okay, because what I'm hearing is, through Sandy, she wanted something done, she was a little upset to where Sue did not donate property?
No. Well, it was Sue that was upset on behalf of Emma. Being her attorney, Emma had Sue's ear, and it was through that relationship that Sue chose not to donate some property that she had been talking to Mr. Eastwood about.
I guess my confusion would be, Emma, through that, did Emma want something done?
That's according to her attorney, Sue's point of view, yes.
So we've really done very little there now, so that would not be meeting Emma's wishes.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And if I could clarify, I'm going to point that out as double hearsay, but I also know Sue Flamme, she was a friend of mine, and she talked to me about what Emma was doing. Emma talked to me about what she was doing, and her concern was that it not be developed. I have never heard Sue Flamme express that Emma was concerned about the fact that there was no development. The concern that was expressed was that she had donated it, it had gone into the Idaho Parks Foundation, and that eventually the city was going to need to take responsibility for it. I'm unaware of any other property that she owned that she was resisting to donate. She owned the property where Judy Hanna lives. She owned some property that she deeded to the Coeur d'Alene Homes. She owned some property that she deeded to the Coeur d'Alene Library, which is eventually was sold and went to help pay for this library. Thank you.
Commissioner, for clarification on the reason that the foundation has the property, it helps us for grant purposes. So they hold that land for us in trust. So it truly is going to the city of Coeur d'Alene. It's not like it's been given to them to do what they want. It was given so that we can, in the future, if we choose to do some sort of pathway, gravel parking lot, whatever it is that we choose to, whatever you choose to allow for this property to be, and I use the word development for no other reason, I don't know what else word to use. When I say development, it's not going to be a developed park like McEwen's a developed park. It's going to be in a natural state, but development means an area for parking, a restroom facility of some sort, and we talked about that last time. Maybe some trails. Emma, I read somewhere where she was interested in recognizing the veterans. Her brothers were veterans. So we talked about some sort of monument to recognize those and honor those who fell as veterans. So those are the sorts of things we talked about. There isn't going to be turf grass. There isn't going to be, stuff that's a mower's up there every day. And so we're trying to keep it in that natural state. But the concern that I heard from Peter was that it was gifted to the Parks Foundation. There was reasons for that, again, for grant purposes. So if we were to apply for some help from the federal government and a land and water conservation grant, we can use that land as a matching grant so we can get a few things done. And that's the reason for it. It wasn't any sort of bait and switch that we were looking to do. It just gave us the ability to do what we believe Emma is looking to have us do. Simple as that.
Okay. Anyone else like to speak? Yeah, Mr. Wilson, do you have something else to add?
Yes, I do, if you don't mind. I had
You'll have to come up where they can hear you at the microphone, please.
Thank you. I'm sure that Emma had best wishes intended for donating this property, but this is one person compared to many, many people that might disagree with her, and that's something I hope you understand. Being retired law enforcement, I know the problems that come with situations like that, people that misuse drugs, alcohol. If this closes, we would not want to know if there's going to be a patrol from the city that's going to be able to go through there and make sure there's no underage drinking or whatever going on. It's just so many problems that I don't think we really need. I think our property values are going to drop on account of this. And like this gentleman here was talking, well, I think we need this, we need this. All of a sudden, our portable toilet out there, people have been throwing watermelons in it. We have to develop that. We have to bring water up there. We have to put a good toilet system in. And the thing just keeps increasing and increasing. And that's what I'm saying. Please consider the short term plus the long term. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, let's go ahead and close the public comment period. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, Katie Kosanke, our urban forester, is here today to present a community canopy award. It's all yours, Katie.
Hello, Commissioners. Thank you very much for having me here today. All right, so before I get to this Community Canopy Landscape of Excellence Award, I want to just talk with you a little bit about Community Canopy and that program. Community Canopy is a tree care education partnership of the cities of Coeur d'Alene, Post Falls, Hayden, Spokane Conservation District, and also Liberty Lake, the WSU Extension, and the University of Idaho Extension. Part of all of our urban forestry programs, a component of that is education, and this is a way where we've all partnered together to do that, since we have a lot of the same people in the green industry working in our area. This helps to assist in reducing tree-related violations, such as unpermitted tree removals, improper pruning, promoting current tree care standards, and continuing education in the field. The program seeks to improve the quality of our community forests through these public education efforts. And the goal of Community Canopy is just for healthy, sustainable community forest. Healthy because trees that are healthy provide maximum benefits. We all know lots of tree benefits, but I'll go ahead and name a few because I just always like to. So we have all the environmental benefits, the reducing carbon and providing oxygen, filtering pollutants and dust particles, and greatly assisting in mitigating stormwater as well. They also provide lots of social benefits as well, including, they're just aesthetically pleasing. They make life more pleasant. They really create a wonderful sense of place in our community. They also provide economic values as well, and those include reducing energy costs, increasing property value, and even creating and promoting more vibrant shopping districts as well. Community Canopy activities include some tree care workshops, various on-site tailgate sessions for landscape crews. These are just 15-minute sessions on proper planting or providing adequate water or keeping string trimmers and mowers away. In all of our communities, we're seeing the same things. We go out, homeowners reported a dead tree. Well, we know it's usually one of these three things, unfortunately. In addition, there's some publications as well, a traveling exhibit, a tree planting video, and we also have a volunteers and pruning program. This has been a really great program for our communities. We have a lot of young trees and we have very limited tree crews and arborists. So what we do is we go out with these volunteers after lots of intensive training, and they help us to prune very young trees, mainly in parks, some street trees as well. Pruning trees while they're young can develop a good structure, so then you don't have structural issues as the trees grow. What I'm going to be focusing on today is the Landscape of Excellence Award, which Community Canopy has established, and it's basically to encourage good tree care by highlighting businesses and organizations who are doing things right in regards to trees, And, they're practicing good use of trees, and they're maintaining, they have good maintenance practices as well. So for the process, we accept nominations, and then the local urban forestry committee reviews those and then makes a nomination for an award, and then there's public recognition highlighting those folks. And that's what I'm going to soon be doing, and we'll give an award at the end of this presentation. You may be familiar with this work that happened recently at Ironwood Drive and US 95. It was widened. And originally, it was thought that this row of London plane trees on the north side of the street would need to be removed. The street had to be widened, the sidewalk had to be removed, or to be placed on the back side of the trees, and by doing this, installing all that new infrastructure, it would have required heavy root pruning on the trees, which would have jeopardized the health of the trees and warrant tree removal. Through a partnership effort between Kootenai Health, the Idaho Transportation Department, and the City of Coeur d'Alene, modifications were made to their site plans to limit the impacts to these trees in order to save them. The location of the sidewalk was moved further away from the trees and also was narrowed slightly as well. Kootenai Health also hired Bartlett tree experts to professionally expose the roots and prune them. That way they could evaluate what the impact was going to be, prune the roots professionally, and that also prevented, a lot of times during construction, excavators will be trenching and they'll rip and tear back roots much further all the way to the trunk of the tree. So this is a very important step to, again, evaluate the damage and then have the work done professionally to limit the impacts. The street contractor at Cameron Riley, they were very cautious not to impact the tree roots and assisted in relocating the sidewalk further away. The Idaho Transportation Department staff and the city engineer, Chris Bosley, and urban forestry staff were there and offered suggestions and flexibility with the project. At one point, someone even went as far as suggesting a light pole be replaced over here instead of right through one of the trees, which would have required really heavy pruning of one of the trees. When we met on site, there was a lot of positive discussion and brainstorming on how to pull this all off. I truly cannot say that I've ever been on a job site where there's been so much flexibility and attention put on reducing the impact to trees. And they did just a wonderful job doing that. So the Landscape of Excellence Award for 2017 will be going to Kootenai Health. And it's presented by Community Canopy, and Coeur d'Alene is a partner, for the recognition and outstanding use and preservation of trees. This is a very successful project, and Kootenai Health is applauded for all their hard work that they put into this. They did everything that they could to preserve these trees. And when the major impacts to the trees were, first assessed, they kind of took a step back and said, okay, what can we do to resolve this? And this location is a wonderful example of successful partnerships, and I hope that many others will follow, preserving trees and making just minor deviations in order to limit impacts to tree roots. So in just a moment, I'll invite Kootenai Health up to accept this award and commissioners to come down to present the award, and we'll do a photo opportunity. But I wanted to again recognize the partners involved with this, and that's Kootenai Health, who will be receiving the award, Bartlett Tree Care Expert staff, Cameron Riley Construction, the Idaho Transportation Department, and the City of Coeur d'Alene. And with that, I'd like to invite Kootenai Health up to receive the award, and also those partners to come up and real quick, if we can, do a quick photo opportunity.
Great.
I'm going to give it to the commissioner to present to you.
Scott.
Or all of us?
All right. You need all of it.
If you'd like. We'll do a quick, just a quick photo, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we're doing.
Okay. They don't need us?
Well, Melissa's just gonna, maybe up here?
At first, she wanted everybody, but
Okay.
I think
Christie and.
we'll smile in the background. They can be in it.
Okay.
Oh, shoot.
Yes, thank you very much for a project well done. Congratulations.
Great.
Do you know who that is that received it? I don't either.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have an action item regarding the new skate park funding. I'm going to go ahead and read the staff report, Bill. The decision point tonight is whether to allocate funds from the Parks Capital Improvement Fund to complete the funding shortfall to build a new skate park at the Memorial Park and to accept Ignite funding. The original skate park was constructed in the early 1990s with upgrades and improvements throughout the years by the Skate Park Association and the City of Coeur d'Alene. A new skate park was identified in the 2008 Parks Master Plan, as well as the Four Corners BLM Master Plan, as a need for this user group. In our development plan for Memorial Park, we identified funding for a new skate park. We worked with the skateboard community and created a conceptual plan to build a plaza-style skate park for $400,000. We acquired $200,000 from Ignite, and we then applied for Land Water Conservation Fund matching grant for the other $200,000. But unfortunately, we did not receive the grant. Not receiving the grant was a disappointment to say the least. Although we have other avenues to locate the needed funds, Ignite is willing to further partner with us to make up this shortfall. They are proposing to give us an additional $150,000, and we would take $50,000 from the Parks Capital Improvement Fund in order to build the new skate park. This is a perfect use of Parks Capital Improvement Fund, and this project helps to meet the needs of our Coeur d'Alene Skate Park Association and their user group of 875 skaters and another 500 BMX riders that will use this new facility. Again, the decision point and recommendation tonight would be to allocate $50,000 from Parks Capital Improvement Fund to complete the funding shortfall to build a new skate park in the Memorial Park and to accept Ignite funding. Have anything to add, Bill?
No, the staff report, I think, sums it up pretty well. I just need your approval to utilize those funds. It was nice that Ignite was willing to help again, but Mr. Burns always likes the term skin in the game, so our $50,000 is just that skin in the game.
Art, did you have something?
Yeah, so it's been decided that we are building a new skate park, right? We just need the funding?
Yes,
Yeah, maybe just to back up, just real briefly, Bill, why don't you kind of describe the skate park
So-
plaza concept
You
within the memorial
You bet.
field?
So it's a plaza style, which looks more like it suggests. It has benches, it has railings, it has stairs. It doesn't have a bowl element in it this time. So the bowl element was what we were looking at as possibly phase two. If we have a good construction that comes in under budget, and the Skate Park Association is doing some fundraising, we may be able to do the bowl element at the same time. So, yes, we have a preliminary concept. We're going to go out to RFQs at the end of this year. That's already been written. And then I believe one of the commissioners is sitting on that selection committee, along with myself, our engineer, and Monty McCulley, and I think Tony Burns from Ignite, to make the selection of a contractor. And again, RFQ is about qualifications, not a proposal.
All right. Thank you.
Christie?
Commissioner, thank you. I just want to clarify, Bill, when you say that Ignite is willing to partner with us, I want to clarify that Ignite is an urban renewal agency, and their funds are public funds from the tax base, And the capital improvement funds for the parks are also public funds. But with that, I'd like to say it is in line with both the mission of Ignite and the mission of the parks, the capital improvement fund, to do these kind of projects. But I want to clarify that it's not a gift from an individual. These are tax dollars. And in my mind, it's a very appropriate use of the tax dollars. And with that, Commissioner, I would make a motion that we accept the $150,000 match for the $50,000 from the Parks Capital Improvement Fund to build a new skate park.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made by Commissioner Wood and seconded by Commissioner Hill to accept the Ignite funding and to allocate $50,000 from the Parks Capital Improvement Fund. Is there any further discussion?
I guess under discussion, we'll recognize that, as was reported, it was the 150 on top of a previously committed 200,000. So it's really 350,000
Correct,
from
Commissioner.
Ignite and 50 from the Park Capital Improvement Fund.
But the 200 had already been allocated and accepted. What we're looking
That's
after
correct.
is that 100.5 and our 50. That's correct.
Let's do more projects like that. Good use of our money.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. That recommendation is approved unanimously, and that moves to general services.
That's correct.
Okay. So we're kind of nearing the business agenda here, Bill. I guess what we're going to do now is kind of give a brief presentation for the workshop that we'll be adjourning to. I'll
Correct.
let you
So-
take it over from there.
Yeah, if I may, Mike Walker has worked with the Open Space Committee. He's a gentleman who put together the plan you saw last time, so I just thought he could give a quick overview so that it's on the screen and everybody can see the development and what kind of development or lack of development that this design demonstrates. And then we would recess to the workshop. We have stations in the back, so there's some information, some pictures of Emma, her family, and the property, and then there are comment sheets available for folks to write their comments. We'll collect that data. If you choose not to actually write that up, Melissa, our secretary, will be at this table, and you can dictate to her what it is that you'd like to see posted on that as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mike.
Bill, will the graphic of the
We'll
conceptual
leave this
plan
up.
also be
Yeah,
available
we'll
during
leave
the
this up, and
workshop?
this graphic is also on our poster board,
Okay.
as well as a handout that's at each table.
Great.
Good evening, Commission. Like I had spoke to last time, the Natural Open Space Committee was, because we were put to charge what the management plan to do with the natural open space that the city had, it was kind of a natural fit that we worked on developing kind of a conceptual plan. And when I say conceptual, that just like had been spoken to before, there's no funding to this. We just wanted to get some ideas out there so that people can see stuff, because it's always hard to get input when you have nothing to show anybody. And so you got to start somewhere. You got to start with a graphic of some sort. And so that's why we worked for the better part of 2 years working on a plan to get to this point. We brainstormed a bunch of ideas of things that we thought could potentially happen at the site that we felt was in keeping with the donation, but they don't necessarily have to happen. But with that, there was some things that, you know, anytime you improve the usage of a park, there's some natural things you almost have to do. One is restrooms. You bring a bunch of people in an area, you don't want people just urinating against a tree, so you need to provide a restroom for people to use that. Another is parking. You know, the area of Fernan Hill Road as well as Victoria Place doesn't have a lot of public parking, so we felt it important to provide public parking on the site.
And then along with that, we just wanted to provide some nice amenities. What we kind of used as kind of a basis is the idea of an arboretum. Again, trying to keep with the natural theme. So with those kind of tenets in place of objectives that we'd like to accomplish, we set forth with creating a better access. Currently, you can see right here is the existing gravel road. This area right here is the city's actual access to the site. It hasn't ever been developed. And the gravel road actually crosses against it. So we felt like we needed to work within those confines, again, to meet the city ordinances and guidelines, to create a driveway that accesses the site. And then along with that, creating a small parking lot. And this could be pared down, it could be increased, depending on what the what everybody feels the need of the site is. And we also created a loop so that potentially there would be opportunity for buses to come up there and bring school-age kids to be able to see the site on a field trip or something along that line. But most of it, we wanted to keep that heavier park development on the towards Fernan Hill Road side of things, because we recognize that the site has some natural beauty, and we didn't want to create a road that went all the way through the site to access these basic amenities. With that, there's some restrooms on this side. We identified an area where maybe there's a sculpture garden that could be dedicated to the veterans. An area right here that would be the kind of a natural playground, not a structured playground like you'd see at McEwen Park, but something that would be more hills and stuff kids could climb on, and that kind of stuff, rather than a big playground structure. Along with that, we saw a need for a picnic shelter. A family could go up there and enjoy the afternoon and picnic there, so we included that. And then in this area, we saw that there would be a potential for, again, going with the schools, maybe there's a need to do a natural arboretum where presentations about wildlife or trees could happen in that area. And then basically a circuit of several trails that just improve access to the site. Currently, there is no trails on the site. You just walk through the knapweed and the grass through there. So we felt like to give greater mobility to senior citizens, school-age kids, to create a nice gravel path through the site. Preserving the natural stand through here, and then working through some clumping of vegetation to, again, go with this natural arboretum. Paths would have maybe some benches along the way for people. So I mean, like I said, this is kind of the first blush. We encourage input. We'd love to see other people's ideas for the site, but again, trying to be respectful to the donation, and but still improve the amenities and the access to the greater public of Coeur d'Alene.
Christie, you have questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you could we've heard a little bit tonight about access. Can you tell me, does the city own the access? Or are we going to be asking for easements from Mr.
No,
Erblin?
the city
and
currently
Mr.
owns,
Santa?
this is part of the property. What I understand is one of the tenants, when it was donated, the city required that they have a 60-foot right-of-way to access the property because it was bound by other properties on this side of the road. So as part of that, there's this weird kind of flag lot that happened with the site so that the city would have access, legal access, and not just an easement through somebody else's property. And then there's also, this is a dead-end road right here that comes off of Victoria Place subdivision. The city has access from that side as well.
So we've had two people from the public identify tonight that their property is part of that access? Am I not hearing that right?
No. So currently, and you can kind of see right here, there's an existing gravel road that crosses several, not only the city's legal access, but several other properties that gain access to the site. So that, in a prescribed manner, is kind of a legal access, but it's not because it hasn't been formally adopted into an easement. And so part of the donation, the city required that this land become part of this parcel in the intent to create a legal access to the property.
But, Commissioner, on the city property, there's no road that really actually follows the city property right now.
Correct.
And then that exits onto Fernan Hill Road?
Correct. Fernan Hill Road, the edge of Fernan Hill Road is right here.
Mr. Chair, one more question. And just your perspective, you talked about, with the input, we could change the plan a little bit. So the parking lot, you suggested that it could be shrunk if needed.
It definitely can. The function of how many spaces is really, and it could be designed so that it could be phased as well, so that, maybe it starts out with 10 spaces and gets expanded to more as the need arises. But what the commission, the Natural Open Space Commission is we didn't want to shortchange the site. If you see a bunch of people come to it, you don't want people parking on everybody else's properties haphazardly. You want them to park on the city property. And so that's why we designed the parking lot the way we did.
And then, in your opinion, could the parking lot be just as workable if it was gravel?
That is a question of the city ordinances. City ordinances require that any parking lot be paved within the city of Coeur d'Alene. So that would require some sort of concession by the city to allow a gravel lot or a permeable paver or some other fashion to allow that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bill, do you have anything further to add as far as,
No, I just want to thank
Format
everybody
of
for
things.
showing up. We really want
Okay.
input. I mean, we really do. And so we're just trying to work through this the best we can with the citizens. And with that, you can close the meeting for the workshop.
and I would just add, again, tonight is really the first step in engaging the community for your input, so we kind of look forward here momentarily to meet with you and share your thoughts. Do any of the commissioners have any comments or announcements? Before we adjourn here, then, I want to make two quick meeting announcements.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry to interrupt again. I would like to point out that Pete, or Lynn and I both live in the county. I'm just, that's one issue. As far as territorial issues, we're in the county, so the city is presently accessing.
Thank you.
I don't think that, the developers or the planners have planned that out, so sorry if that's not the correct place to inject that. I just want to let you know we live in the county.
Go ahead, Bill.
Well, so all I wanted to say was that please note that in any of the narratives that you guys fill out. Any of that is helpful. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay.
And one thing I should have added, Commissioner, I'm sorry, was that when we adjourn the workshop, the commissioners will be available for you to speak to them, myself, as well as Mike Kempton and Mike Walker, who sat on the Open Space Committee, so we can have dialogue and we can talk about things and you can make comments to us and then also write them down so we don't forget them.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. Okay, just a couple of quick meeting announcements for our upcoming December meetings. Our next workshop will be Tuesday, December 5th, 11:30 a.m. Is that location still at Crusoe's Deli?
We hope so, that we don't get bumped, so I'll work with Melissa on that one.
Okay.
We'll keep you posted.
Then our regular monthly meeting will be held Monday night, December 18th, 5:30, right here in the library community room. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the workshop.
Okay, I would make a motion that we recess the Park and Rec Commission meeting and take up the issue of a workshop.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made by Commissioner McDowell and seconded by Commissioner Hart to recess into our workshop. All in favor?
Aye.
We are recessed.